Imagine this, you're swaddled in layers of petticoats, cinched into a corset, and balancing the weight of a hoop skirt the size of a small tent. You're sipping tea with nobles at a royal ball, elegance all around, and then nature calls. Now what? How do you lift all that fabric? Where do you even go? And more importantly, how on earth did women manage menstruation under all those layers? Welcome to the Victorian era, ****, a time of elegance, rigid decorum, and truly baffling hygiene challenges. Victorian. Women were bound up in crinolines and voluminous skirts, symbols of femininity and propriety. Queen Victoria herself popularized the look. But beneath the grandeur was a daily struggle history books often ignore. Let's talk toilets or the lack thereof. In the early Victorian era, flushing toilets and underground sewers were the stuff of fantasy. Most Europeans hadn't yet embraced the very concept of a toilet. So when nature called, people answered wherever they were. Behind a tree, in a corner, or right inside their homes. Ever heard the phrase, not a pot to piss in? That wasn't just a saying, it was a grim reality. The pot was a chamber pot, a humble bowl used to collect waste. If you didn't own one, you either borrowed or braved the outdoors, and the streets. They are EEKED. Victorians often dumped the contents of these pots straight out the window onto the cobblestones below. High heels and umbrellas weren't just fashion statements, they were survival gear in cities, where it could literally rain waste. In fact, the chamber pot, called a jerry in British slang, was so common that it was built into furniture, hidden in cabinets or disguised in chairs. It was silently serviced by maids who emptied and cleaned them throughout the day. Even the rich couldn't escape biology. A noble's bathroom might be a beautifully carved wooden bench with a pot tucked inside. But waste still had to go somewhere. Enter the garderobe, ***, medieval-style toilet often built onto the side of upper floors, dangling over alleyways. Emptying a chamber pot meant opening the window and chucking it out. To warn passersby, people would shout **gardes, low, inch French for watch out for the water, which is how the English slang gardeloo was born. But even with a warning, the stench was unavoidable. Waste pooled in gutters, and streets overflowed with filth. In some cities, sidewalks were elevated just so pedestrians could hop over the mess. Here's an even stranger twist. During wars, like the Napoleonic and English civil wars, government agents went door to door collecting chamber pot contents as urine. Why? Because it was refined into saltpeter, a key ingredient in gunpowder. Yes, your pea could power cannons. Now, about those dresses. Women in the Victorian era were swathed in layers, crinolines, petticoats, overskirts, often no underwear at all. That's right, early Victorian women usually didn't wear knickers. With so much fabric, no one noticed. It wasn't until hoop skirts began flipping in gusts of wind, exposing far too much that modesty demanded a solution. Thus came the invention of drawers, but not like the ones you're thinking. Early Victorian underwear was crotchless, two pant legs tied at the waist with a slit in the middle. Think, fabric curtains that politely parted when nature called. Why the split design? Because lifting 20 pounds of skirts every time you had to pee wasn't exactly practical. Women's chamber pots were designed accordingly. Not round, like men's, but oval, with low sides to fit snugly between the thighs. With a little maneuvering, a woman could position the pot under her skirts without squatting or undressing. Done right, no one in the room would even know. At grand balls, retiring rooms were set aside just for this. Inside, chamber pots waited and maids stood ready, like battlefield nurses, one to lift the skirts, another to place the pot, a quick wipe, and the lady was back to dancing, as though nothing had happened. But not every woman lived in a palace. For most, the process was much cruder. Pot on the floor, skirts up, squat, clean up sometimes with old newspapers, leaves, or even corn cobs. Hygiene was functional, not luxurious. At the base of every Victorian woman's wardrobe was the linen shift, soft, washable, and changed often, at least for the wealthy. Maids and servants wore far fewer layers, without the luxury of privacy, or retiring rooms. And in working-class homes, modesty was sacrificed entirely. Whole families used the pot in full view of one another. No water closets, no locked doors. Just the pot, the floor, or the yard. As for gentlemen, at social events, many simply wandered into the garden to relieve themselves because privacy, much like plumbing, was a privilege. Among the roses. Let's get to the gritty part, the question no one dares ask, but everyone's thinking. How did Victorians wipe their bottoms? Brace yourself. One of the most common tools for personal hygiene in the early Victorian era was the dried corn cob. Yes, corn on the cob, just without the kernels. These tough, textured cobs were rotated, like a crude brush, to clean the area. And before you ask, no, they weren't sick. They were often reused, cleaned only occasionally, if at all. Another crowd favorite, the sea sponge on a stick. After use, it was dunked into a communal bucket filled with salt water or vinegar. then used again, and again, and again. Sanitary, debatable, effective. They made do. Of course. This wasn't unique to the Victorians. Early humans used rocks, dirt, clay, the very earth itself to get the job done. Comfort was not the goal. Cleanliness, questionable. Survival, absolutely. Leave straw, even seashells also made the cut. Each with their own obvious risks, yes, ouch, but as printed paper became more available, Victorians got creative. They wiped with newspapers, magazines, and catalogs. Yesterday's headlines. Tomorrow's toilet paper. Toilet paper, as we know it, soft, rolled, disposable, didn't hit the scene until the late 1800s. Even then, it was a luxury. Mass production didn't truly take off until the early 1900s. So until then, well, let's just say your bathroom experience was not the tupli luxury we enjoy today. Now let's talk about periods. Asterisk, asterisk, how did Victorian women manage menstruation beneath steel-caged crinolines, corsets, and 20 pounds of fabric? First, they menstruated less frequently than women do today. 3 big reasons. 1. Early menopause, asterisk, asterisk. Many women stopped menstruating by their mid-30s south. 2. Poor nutrition, asterisk, asterisk. Chronic undernourishment led to low body fat, which disrupted menstrual cycles. 3. Physical labor, asterisk, asterisk. Hard work took a toll on the reproductive system. Still, less didn't mean never. And when periods came, they came with no tampons, no pads, no disposables. So what did women use? They got resourceful. The standard undergarment was a linen shift, a long, washable layer meant to protect expensive outer dresses from sweat, oils, and blood. When bleeding began, women tied on what was called a T-bandage, essentially a rudimentary cloth thong secured at the waist, with a strip of fabric running between the legs. Inside, it was packed with rags. If you were too poor for rags, you turned to moss, grass, or sheep's wool. Whatever was absorbent, you used. And these makeshift pads, they weren't tossed after use. They were washed, dried, and reused month after month. Some women had to change their cloth bandages 12 to 20 times a day, depending on their flow. It was exhausting, uncomfortable, and utterly necessary. On lighter days, some simply wore thicker petticoats, hoping the extra layers would catch whatever needed catching. Not exactly foolproof, but it was better than bleeding through a gown worth a year's wages. By the late Victorian era, split crotch drawers became fashionable, but they weren't designed for menstruation. They were made to make peeing easier, not bleeding cleaner. And through it all, women were expected to be graceful, silent, composed. Pain, blood, odor, all of it was hidden beneath silk, lace, and iron-hard decorum. No one talked about it, but every woman endured it. And what about those massive, floor-sweeping gowns, asterisk, asterisk, with ruffles, lace, and velvet trains? How did they keep them clean? They didn't, at least. Not like we do today. Laundry was a brutal process, hauling water, scrubbing fabric by hand, boiling linens. So full washes of expensive dresses happened twice a year, at most, during a time grimly nicknamed asterisk, asterisk, the Great Wash. Imagine waiting 6 months to clean your clothes. But this wasn't laziness, it was survival, asterisk, asterisk. Water and soap could ruin the delicate silks and velvets. Instead, dresses were sprinkled with talcum powder, then brushed clean to remove dust and mask odor. Did it remove the smell? Not really. It just covered it up. When not in use, gowns were folded and stored in cedar-lined trunks, protected from moths. These weren't just garments. They were heirlooms, masterpieces of fabric and stitch. And hidden underneath all that beauty were the real heroes of hygiene: layers and layers of asterisk, asterisk washable undergarments, asterisk, asterisk shifts, chemise, petticoats. These were the pieces that absorbed the sweat, blood, and grime. And those could be boiled and scrubbed by exhausted maids or laundresses in scalding water with harsh soap. Victorian beauty had a price: sweat, time, and smell. So here's the question. If you had the chance, would you trade places? Asterisk, asterisk, would you walk through filth and silk and soot, brush talc over sweat, and manage your period with moss and ragzol in silence and steel-boned grace? Let us know in the comments. Just don't forget to appreciate that soft, scented roll waiting for you in the bathroom today.